Hey guys, gonna be talking about the patch changes to Dota and go through them a little bit. I will talk shortly about most of the relevant things. I might miss something, but sorry, it's a very big patch, and some of the important changes are actually located as fixes, but I can't go through every single fix. It's gonna take forever. But I'll try and focus on the important things. So here we go, and before I start, I just want to say that I am looking at this patch and talking about mainly the competitive scene, not so much about how it's gonna change your pub games, but how it's gonna change the competitive scene and the tournament in itself, which hero might be more viable, and so on. But if I do talk about specifically pubs, then I will clarify that before I say something. So, yeah, hope you can understand why don't really focus so much on which hero is gonna be OP in pub and so on. It's less interesting to me. All clicking items. Yeah, here's some inventory changes. All clicking items now shows when it's ready and cooldown or needs mana. Cool change, I guess. I think it's good. And some other inventory changes here that are not too important, like seeing the cooldown and it purchases the first eligible item. Grab all being available when you're dead. All the recommended item builds have been updated. This is actually a very important thing for pubs, I should say, because yeah, we might see less Battlefield bounty hunters or something. Many of the item builds that were recommended were really outdated, like Vanguard, Batrider, and stuff like this. Interface changes are not too interesting to me, so I'm just gonna skip that. Other features are also, well, you can see the ping for different regions when you want to play a game, and that's a nice thing. Workshop is also not too interesting. The treasures I actually don't care about at all. And interface bug fixes, getting a little bit closer to something that's important, you know. Audio and visuals. This is actually interesting. This is important. Fixed some visual changes, effects showing in correctly in Fog of War. I guess that they mean that they fixed some visual effects showing incorrectly in Fog of War. Well, I guess there could still be visual effects that show incorrectly in Fog of War, so I can't be completely certain. But, for example, the Necrobook's range creep would show its attack, so if you were killing Roshan with a Necrobook, then the enemy could see that, stuff like that. So it's important that they remove all of this. There's fixed sound elements from following spells in Fog War. This is kind of nice. Less information to your enemy team. Linux and Mac changes, not too interesting. Here we're down to something interesting. Gameplay bug fixes. You can no longer see trees being destroyed if they're hidden by the Fog War. That's a great change, both for juking and for Batrider in particular. Batrider gets another nerf later on though, so he will still not be, you know, seeing a lot more play because suddenly this is fixed. But it's a good change. Really has, you know, it's something that needed to be done probably a long time ago, but finally it's done. Fixed the bug prevented where placing a ward where a building recently died doesn't matter so much. Only when you push your enemy base and wanna put down a ward where racks were standing or something. Yeah, some wards fixes. It's not too interesting. This one is sort of interesting. Fixed not being able to walk out of power cogs without being hit again, or being hit again, I guess. So you can walk out of it without being hit. I don't know if it applies when you walk out of one of the corner cogs. You will probably still have to kill the middle ones to walk out. We'll see. Fixed Ember Spirit Sleight of Fist to not do no damage if cast while disarmed. This is good if you have a halberd against him. Here are a lot of fixes. Not all of them are relevant. I will go through some of them that I found that I think are important. Fixed Hex disabling Bristleback's Bristleback ability is a very good change to him. Hex was one of the biggest counters to him. Now he's gonna be hard to kill no matter what. So it's a big buff, you know. This could just as well have been lower down on the hero change list. Fixed Magnus Skewer continuing to pull units after being relocated by IO, or I guess, sent back by Chen. I don't know if that one was fixed already. That's a very good change for the new international, so we don't have any gimmicky game. No offense to the team that possibly did that, TI3. I think it's good to be creative, but it's also good to not have something that, fountain skewering or fountain hooking is not a nice one to end a tournament for the team that loses. Fixed Timbersaw's Chakram. Timbersaw gets several buffs here, by the way. Fixed the Chakram, slowing enemies by 5 less than it should. This is a very big change. May not sound like it, but always having that 5% more on the Chakram is really a nice change, because the level 1 Chakram, or Chakram when enemy is full HP, is actually gonna have a little bit of a slow impact now. It didn't used to do anything. Now that plus 5% can make a difference. Fixed Invoker's Chaos Meteors to stack multiple meteors correctly. This is, gonna increase the burst damage from double meteor a lot. So when you have Refresher Orb on Invoker, in the late stage, Invoker is a little bit stronger now, because he can throw this combination, and it's a dangerous one. Double meteor with double Deafening Blast even is dangerous, or even a single Deafening Blast with 2 well-timed meteors. Yeah, some just weird fixes here as well. Fixed Undying's Tombstone's armor type. Undying gets a lot of changes as well, and I'm not sure what the armor type goes from and to, but I guess that it was actually tankier than it should have been. I'm not sure. I think it was like hero armor or something, but we will see. They didn't really list it. Fixed Earth Spirits, Magnetize, not hitting invisible units. One of the 2 buffs that Earth Spirit gets in this patch, and that's a pretty, well, not significant one, but it can get you some kills that you would have missed. Yeah, no more arrows flying across the entire map. That can be nice. Can't hook onto the Ancestral Spirit. That's a good fix. A little bit of a annoying thing when you play Clockwork and Elder Titan would block you with an Ancestral Spirit, The Phoenix Blade Mail bug is fixed. You could Blade Mail, and if you got killed, then all the damage that you would return with Blade Mail. Holy shit, I'm bad at explaining it. If you had certain HP and you got killed and you had a Blade Mail activated before you egg, you would deal all your HP and damage to the guy who killed you. Yeah, and that was very strong. So it's a good fix. Medusa's Mystic State now bounces harmlessly off of targets that become invisible while the projectile is in flight. Okay, so it won't deal damage to people who fade. A nerfed Medusa? Really? I don't know, man. Doesn't feel like Medusa is very strong. Okay. Some other fix to the Chaos Meteor that was apparently not correct with level 1 and 2 Wex. That's pretty important, because very often you have level 1 and 2 Wex and you use your Meteor, because very many people will play the Quas Exort Invoker and Max Exort and have 1 Wex and throw the Meteors later on in the game. Fix the bug causing Meepo to lose their kill streak when Aegis of the Immortal prevents death. Yeah, it's nerf to Meepo, you could, because having a kill streak, it's a nerf, because he was able to deny his kill streaks this way. He would lose the kill streak, but no one would get cold. Yeah, not so much other stuff actually. Fix the bug, Meepo being able to buy back after being killed by a Reaper Shife with Agnim's upgrade. Huh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Fixed the bug where Punch Rot skill could be quickly toggled, allowing him to suicide quickly. It did more damage than it should over time if you toggle it really fast, so it was good when you ran away from people. Now you can't do that anymore. Some other things. Fixed Legion Commander's Moment of Courage extra attack, lasting longer if she cannot lifesteal off of the target when attacking buildings. Huh. Okay, I didn't know that it lasts longer. But I didn't play a lot of Legion Commander in this version. She felt pretty weak anyway. Oh, this is interesting. Sniper's assassination no longer gets interrupted if the target becomes temporarily invulnerable. So that can be very nice, you know, if you assassinate, for example, Ember Spirits and he jumps away, then he's invulnerable in his jump, and it shouldn't interrupt your channeling time, so you can still fire it. That's cool. Then you have to time your jump so that you actually dodge when the shot is in the air and about to land on it. It's cool. Ember Spirit turn rate was slightly too high. Ember Spirit is getting a lot of nerfs, like small nerfs in this version, by the way. He gets some later on when we read about the heroes as well. Fixed Juggernaut's Omni Slash being able to hit units in Tusk Snowball. Yeah, I experienced that once. It was not fun. Oh, Draw Ranger's Precision Aura, when activated, will now properly apply to units created after its activation. This is kinda, you know, not exactly a purpose of her aura, because you want to push with it, but now you can actually use it. And even if you're being pushed, your newly summoned creeps are gonna be a little bit stronger. So it's a small improvement. Here are some changes that are more relevant to me and that I have some fancy for. TA, but actually TA gets nerfed in this patch quite a lot, I would say. Well, not quite a lot. It's a really small nerf, but there are several of them. Fix the bug where you can't do the moving meld bug anymore. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's when you melt struck an enemy who was in his fading time, and if he faded before your attack landed, you would stay in meld, but you could move, so you could go assassinate someone. So that could happen sometimes. It was pretty rare. Your bonus damage from meld no longer applies to Undying's Tombstone. That's very sad. I feel bad for TA because of this, because that was your one really good counter to Undying with TA. Now you're not so strong against him, and also you can't even spill on his Tombstone anymore. So Tombstone is really gonna wreck you, because the zombies are also really good against TA, eating up your fraction charges. Alright, so there's some other things. Yeah, you can't summon wolves to inaccessible terrain. You used to be able to deward with wolves if you summon them up to high ground. Like, it was a fun thing. Too bad you can't do it. Ranged units can now properly deny invisible friendly units. What? Couldn't they do it before? What? Okay, well, apparently not. Ranged heroes could definitely do it, but maybe like if you have a necro range unit, or if you dominate a range creep, you couldn't die. Okay, it's a weird bug. Okay, Dragon Knight's Dragon Form splash damage will now do half damage to nearby units if it misses its primary target. That's a cool fix. Alright, so we're down to gameplay now. This is the actual changes, you know, because the top ones that I went through now for 13 minutes or 14 normals were some fixes that shouldn't have been that way in the first place. First off, Roshan armor increased by 1. Well, harder to level 1 Rosh, but if you level 1 Rosh is all about whether you get caught or not, so I think it's more about if you're gonna solo kill Rosh, the armor is gonna make a difference. It takes longer time, because if you level 1 Rosh and you don't get caught, then you gotta get away with it, you know. Very rare that the enemy is on their way to check it and then you kill Rosh. Attack speed now always continually adjusts based on the latest modifications to the unit. Yeah, it's like Enchantress and Phoenix. They would slow you, and then it would incorrectly update. Like, you would have disarm pretty much for a longer time than you should have. So it's a good fix. Melee illusion runes take less damage. Good, because the range ones were OP. You would always let the range support take them, but now maybe you can take it on a melee hero as well, and it will be okay. Random draft, I don't care too much about it. Captain's draft, same thing. Meepo were removed from ability draft. That's good. He was OP. Now we're getting somewhere. Abaddon. Aghanim Scepter borrowed time now redirects 35% of all damage dealt to nearby allied heroes to Abaddon when active. So Aghanim Scepter is a 7-second duration, and at 7 seconds you take 35% of the damage from your allies, and that actually will heal you a lot as well. So you can trigger your ulti to save your teammate if you're close to them. The AoE is 900, so that's really big. That's really big. But it's only to heroes. Yeah, only to heroes, not to other stuff. Because else it would be OP for pushing if you could do it for, you know, every single unit in the push. Never mind that. Pretty big buff, I would say. In competitive, this could see some play, especially in the 35-minute plus games where Abaddon, sometimes playing Abaddon is like an early game focused hero, but now he can actually be really strong late game, removing a lot of damage in a team fight. Little bit of a nerf to Ancient Aberration, less attack speed, or more attack speed reduction, but it's not a big nerf considering how much play he sees. Buff to AM, even more AoE on his Mana Void, which already had a lot, so it's really big now. Counter Helix now uses like PRD, pseudo random distribution. So this means that you have less chance for a long lucky streak or a long unlucky streak, because it's like if you fail your first chance to spin, then you have a higher chance to spin on next one. Like the longer you fail, the higher your chances. It's not true random anymore, but over the course of a very over the course of game, you will close up on 17% counter helix. Some people say this is a buff, but I would say it's not a buff, it's not a nerf, it's just a fix, and it makes him more predictable and more reliable. Both these things. Predictable, bad. Reliable, good. So you will pretty much always, you know, encounter similar results when jungling. Of course, what creeps you get is a huge deciding factor for Axe in the jungle. So I wouldn't say that he's completely the same every single game, but yeah, it makes him less. You know, some games you just have insane luck and you get really strong. It won't happen anymore. Flaming Lasso, here comes the nerf that I was talking about for Batrider. Flaming Lasso mana cost increased from 150 to 225. That's a big increase in mana cost. It was already 150 was not super expensive, but you have a lot of mana cost issues on this hero. Mainly because Flame Break, I believe, is 140 mana cost, so it's an expensive spell. And for even just throwing off your entire combo now is going to be very intense in mana. So Force Staff, a little bit more important. Blink Dagger might be skipped sooner, but Blink has no mana cost, so it's still very good. We'll see, we'll see. Could see teams go creative and get the Bush Travel Force Staff build. Beastmaster gets a little bit of a buff for the mid lane. 4 more damage is decent. He already has a lot of damage, so his mid laning can be quite relevant now. For his off lane, it doesn't change anything at all, I would say. But for his mid laning, it's buffed, so you have to reconsider this. Some teams might play him now. He's not bad by any means. Just the only way we've really seen him is like Team Liquid playing him in their global strat with Tinker and TPing to the birds to gang with Lifestealer infested and like just in cheesy strats. I hope to see him get a little bit more normal play as well, because he's a very interesting hero. Bloodseeker gets a buff. I like this, because Bloodseeker is already very strong and I feel that he should be played. I don't understand why he's not played. He is seriously pretty reliable. And I was watching, before making this video, I was actually watching Sunshine and Sundarin talk about this, and they said that now you can Blood Rage yourself and you can BKB and you will still have the damage, and now you can just go to town. But little did he know that that was actually already the case, and you could already do this. The Manta and BKB removing the silence is aimed at the enemy team. If you BKB'd after casting it on yourself, you would already retain the Blood Rage. So it's a change to the enemy team, it's a change to aggressive use of Blood Rage, and it's pretty big. Like being able to silence someone despite them having BKB or MKB or BKB or Manta is pretty big. And I think you can of course, purge it with Diffusal Blade, I believe. But this is a big thing, and especially against supports, you can cast it on carries, but Blood Rage is too good of a spell to keep at level 1. I would say you want to have it maxed out really, because it makes you a lot stronger when you cast it on yourself as well. And if you have it maxed out, the cooldown goes down, the duration goes up. Sure, it has a good 6 seconds duration on level 1, but Blood Rage on max duration with a low CD, you can cast that on 2 enemy supports and have them simultaneously be silenced for 3 seconds, I believe. I believe it's like 6-second cooldown and 9-second duration. Either way, it's a really big thing against supports still, but against carries with this Manta BKB change, it can be nice to keep it on low level, especially against something like a Luna or maybe even Anti-Mage, just to kill them. Anti-Mage is not gonna have fun. And the casting point being improved, a lot of people have been talking about this. It was a necessary change, because you almost stopped for a full second to cast, 0.6 is a long time to cast your silence, and people could always get away. 0.4 is pretty fast. Track range improved. Got nothing to say about that. Doesn't change much at all. It's always the same cast range now. Brewmaster's change is interesting. If you haven't crit for 10 seconds, then your first hit will always activate a crit. If you haven't evaded, or if you haven't been attacked for 10 seconds, your first attack towards you will always be an evasion. Yeah, except for if the enemy has True Sight or something like that, of course. And this mechanic carries over to the Fire Spirit. So I think that means that when you pop ulti, it's immediately gonna crit as well with the Fire Spirit. So it's a little bit better of a burst. But actually, yeah, the mechanic carries over to your Fire Spirit when it has the passive Aghanims effect. Yeah. So if you have Aghanims, this is interesting, because in teamfight you will blink in and you might clap and then ulti, but since you don't have time to hit, you won't really get use for the crit. But when you ulti, I believe it should be on the same timer as your normal Brewmaster timer, so it carries over if you have Aghanims. Yeah. So then it still makes sense. You will still burst harder even if you can't attack first. In a teamfight, you're always in a rush to get your ulti off. Bristleback Warpath no longer has unique values for the first movement speed stack, the stack that you have before you even cast anything. Because just skilling Warpath, you will already get a bonus for that, so that one doesn't give as much as it used to. But the normal ones, Warpath movement speed stack bonus increased from 1, 2, 3 to 3, 4, 5. So overall you get a lot faster. You can see it changes old level 1, 5 to 9%. This is the max movement speed, I believe. No, it's not the max. But yeah. Yeah, it is the max. Okay. Sorry. Your max before was, of course, 5. This is cool. This is cool. Good change. Again, Bristleback was already buffed. We talked about him, and Hex is no longer a really good counter against him. But I don't know. We'll see how important he is. Broodmother gets interesting changes here. Spiraling poison sting damage per second increased from 4 to 8. This is gonna be a pain in the ass for any support against a good Broodmother, because that doubles the damage over time. Sure, it was really low already, but now it's a little bit relevant. And if you can keep a spider on the enemy support for the entire time, it's like a tango, a negative tango, just staying on the enemy. The free pathing is rechanged again. No longer deactivates when the enemy has vision on Broodmother. Her free pathing is disabled for 3 seconds when you take damage. So as a blink dagger. So it's interesting. I think this is a huge, it's a buff, but it's not as strong as the crazy Broodmother that we saw earlier on in the previous version. Was it 79, I believe? And then she got it fixed in 80 again. But Insatiable Hunger, lifesteal increased. The damage is still the same, but you have more lifesteal. Makes it better on level 1 for sure, but I don't think you use Insatiable Hunger all that often, especially in competitive, unless you're being completely left alone and you can man up, but normally you're against some tri-lane or dual lane, you will just focus on your spiders. So this change is the most relevant one, and of course being able to walk into the cliffs. Change to Centaur is gonna change the skill order on competitive war runners, because you used to have 85 mana cost on level 1 and then it would go up to 130. Now it's 130 on all levels, so you wanna level it. You don't wanna keep it down. People would skill 1-time stomp, max double edge, and max return. Now, yeah, the burst build is better. CK has a chance to get an extra illusion. This makes the biggest difference in the early game, should mention. So there's a chance that you have 4 CKs already on level 11, for example, or 3 CKs on level 6. But normally you would actually, most people actually didn't skill Phantasm until you had level 9. So this could actually change the skill order on CK a little bit, because he was very mana intense. And you will go reality and stun. I think you want to have this ulti. It can be very strong if you're lucky. And 50% is a good chance. Penitence cooldown reduced. Small buff to Chen. Very small. Death Pact cooldown reduced. It could be relevant. 35 is a very short time. And the duration isn't changed, so you can pretty much be perma buffed. I'm not entirely sure on the duration of your Death Pact, but pretty much perma buffed, I believe. No longer causes a mini stun immediately when you poison touch, but of course on level 4 it still has a stun, so it's a good change to Dazzle. He was picked too much. Kinetic field cooldown reduced. Yeah, it scales now, so it gets better with levels. Not only a duration, that's a good change. Doom no longer ignores magic shields like Pipe of Insight. It's a slight nerf to Doom, you could say, because yeah, it used to go through that and not care at all. Draw Ranger gets a longer knockback duration. It's really good. 0.5 seconds is the time that you need to turn around like Force Staff or whatever if you want to get away from an enemy. So this is really big change, I would say. Earth Spirit. This hero is so stupid. They should just change him. Man, Jesus. Of course, this hero I'm just talking for... I'm still talking for competitive, even though this hero is not in competitive games yet. There's a reason he's not in competitive game yet. Looking at Earth Spirit, in the lower skill brackets, like if you're kind of new to Dota or not really that serious about Dota, this hero is not gonna make any sense to you, and he's gonna be weak. And he has I don't know if it's the worst, but one of the worst win rates in pubs overall. So that's because the majority of people who play him are, the majority is lower than the top, of course, and they don't know how to abuse this hero, and they complain, oh, it's too weak. But then in the upper brackets, like of the people who are really good at playing this hero, the hero is ridiculously strong in my opinion. So I think if this is introduced to competitive games right now, added to Captain's mode, it's still gonna be like a first pick. Maybe not after this patch, because there are some changes that are really strong, but like definitely gonna be picked in almost every single game, I think. He's too strong to pass up on. So in my opinion, they should just change the concept. The hero is stupidly strong if you know how to use him, and really horrible if you don't know how to use him. And some people could say, oh, but that's fine. But in my opinion, a hero should not be complete trash for people who have less than 250 hours on Dota or whatever, and then be completely godlike for people who have played it a lot or whatever. I think it's a bad concept as a whole. It's, yeah, a bad concept. Earth Shaker. They fixed the fissure blocking, so creeps will wait instead of trying to walk around the fissure. It's a really big change for TI4. No cheesy strats here. I like it. It's the same as the previous change that I was talking about as well, with the skewer and relocate. So no cheesy strats. I like that. Dota should not be won by some uncounterable cheese. Like, of course you could ward whatever path, but you could pull creeps to pretty much any single path. You could pull them to Radiant Ancients, you could pull them to Radiant big camp close to a tier 2 mid. You could be so creative with this, so it's a good fix. Elder Titan gets his mana cost reduced to 100 on the stomp on every single level. Very good. some incentive to actually level this skill earlier in the game. Um, an Echo Stomp physical and magical damage increased from 80 to 95 each. It's really good. So it actually increases his damage by 30 on max level. Well, it's a little bit of a buff to ET. He used to be really strong, but then when nerfs came around, lowering the damage on the Ancestral Spirit over and over, he lost pretty much all his play, apart from maybe DK playing him some. But I think this buff is... it's gonna be interesting to see. Maybe he gets overpowered again. But I don't think so from such a small change. Searing Chains have been changed. So it's good that I didn't make a video talking about how you should skill Ember Spirit, because now it actually changes a lot. Searing Chains duration reduced from 2233 to 1223, meaning that on level 1 it's not as strong. The damage is still the same, so total damage is 80, 120, 240 and 300. So the biggest damage upgrade is still level 2 to level 3, but you will still be on 2 seconds duration disable, and you want to get that 3 seconds. So it changes a lot on how you want to skill him, and the Searing Chains are not as valuable, I think, skilling early now, but and if you want to skill them early, you should get up to that level 4. It's really important. 3 seconds duration and 300 damage. Sleight of Fist bonus damage is reduced, so maxing Sleight of Fist early is a little bit weaker as well. So there are several changes. I told you in the fix when we were talking about fixes as well. There are some nerfs to Ember in this patch. So maxing Sleight of Fist is not that strong against heroes in the early game either, because 80 damage, 120, it's a big reduction. But enough about him. Untouchable slow duration increased from 3 to 4 seconds. We'll move on. Midnight Pulse area of effect increased from 400 to 600 AoE. That's a big change. That's a really big effect. And if you have Aghanims on Enigma, that's a huge effect again. I believe it will apply... well, it won't apply... it only applies the damage to people who are in the black hole, I guess. It won't actually put a Midnight Pulse on top of the black hole. Not entirely sure about that, but yeah. Faceless Voids, he got really improved on his turn rate, so in Chronosphere you can kill much faster. You have really good movement speed and good turn rate now. This is insane turn rate. Agility increased by 2. I guess his damage is increased by those 2 points he gets here as well, because normally they say if the damage stays the same. Homing Missile now hits invisible units. This makes sense, doesn't it? Homing Missile. Homing Missile now required hits to destroy is 3, 3, 4, 5. That's a big buff. I really think this is a huge buff, and Homing Missile is an interesting spell, but I think it's gonna be too strong, man. Like 440 damage if they run the full distance, 5 hits to destroy it, and it hits invisible units. I don't know. I think this is too strong actually. But we'll see, we'll see. Burning Spear is no longer a unique attack modifier. Welcome Huskar, you're gonna stomp even more in pubs. In competitive, I don't know if it's gonna change too much. I don't think it's gonna get picked up that much. It's... maybe. It's kinda cool to have lifesteal on him and have the... you know, you could have a Skadi and a Satanic and your Burning Spear, so you have the amazing effects. But overall, I don't know. He's still not a reliable competitive hero. Ghostwalk slow no longer affects invisible or affects magic immune enemies. That's really good. It was sort of good actually against BKB heroes and just walk close to him. EMP delay is changed back to 2.9. So Quaswex Invoker a little bit weaker, but Quas Exhort Invoker still equally strong. So Invoker is still very relevant, I would say. Dual Breath range increased by 50. Kinda good. It was just a little bit too short always. That's true. It was very hard to catch enemy escaping heroes. Liquid Fire level 4 cooldown reduced from 5 to 4. I don't think that makes too much of a difference because it had 5-second duration, I believe, so it doesn't change too much. Aghanim Scepter Macrofire duration. Well, you can keep something permanently burning now, since you had a time where the enemy was not burning because you were attacking and sending a new one. But never mind. Aghanim Scepter Macropyre duration increased from 7 to 14 seconds. Aghanim Scepter Macropyre range increased from 1350 to 1800. This is... you want Aghanims on your dragon now, you really do. Like, this is a huge buff to Aghanim's Jakiro. In competitive, I would say this actually makes a big difference, because you can put this down when you're pushing, and it will force the enemy into such a weird position that it can be hard for him to defend. We will see this be played in competitive, for sure. There's not a single way that no team will abuse this for pushing. 14 seconds, even pushing up the ramp onto enemy's high ground, it's gonna be possible to take racks much easier, because you have this 14-second duration where you can zone your enemy into a weird position. And they can't blink you or whatever because of this. Base attack time is improved on Juggernaut. On any other hero, I would say it's not a huge change, but it's pretty big on Juggernaut, where he actually has the extra attacks on his Omni Slash, so it's nice. Keeper of Light is now Daystalker. He has night vision. Oh, he has day vision, I should say. So he has unobstructed vision during the day. Or, wait, yeah. And the following effects during the day. He has permanent spirit form. This is interesting. You can't attack anything if you permanent spirit form. So getting the Cuddle Aghanims means that you won't right click anything. And I don't know if this can be purged, or if it's just that you're always gonna be a ghost. I guess it can't be purged, I would say. Additionally, the following effects are active. Daystalker and Illuminate heals allies for 75% of damage values during the day. So if the enemy picks Daystalker, you want to pick Nightstalker and just keep it nighttime with your ulti. He still can't keep it for an eternal day, you know, so that's fine at least. But on a serious note, I think this is a pretty big buff. Coddle can very easily farm up an Aghanims, so this could be used. Kunkka Torrent's AoE is increased a little bit. X marks the spot now has twice the long effect on allied heroes, so you can use it to make a base travel. If you have max level on X, it's 8 seconds. You can TP to base, bottle up, heal up, or whatever, pick up your item, and come back with full HP. Ghost Ship ally buff duration increased from 8 to 10 seconds. Oh my god, that's scary. The ghost buff is really strong. You take half damage during the ghost buff, and you're also faster. So, wow, that's really scary. Ghost Ship AoE indicator for allies makes some easier team play, especially between Darkseer and Kunkka. We might see some Kunkka again. Legion Commander, she gets a pretty big buff. She's obviously not in competitive and not being used, so she gets rescaled so that she gets 65 damage per hero that is inside of her overwhelming odds instead of 20 on max level. Overwhelming odds AoE is increased a little bit as well, but damage is rescaled, and it's not just made weaker. Look at this, on low level it's stronger actually, on both regards, so much stronger on low level, and on level 2 it's a lot stronger here, it's equal here, so it's still buffed a little bit. On level 3 it starts getting a little bit weaker in the base damage, but still 50 per hero you hit, so as long as you use it to kill heroes and not creeps, it's gonna be stronger. And she also uses the PRD, same as Axe. I told you about this, and it makes her more reliable, more predictable, and you don't have this unreliable chance to suddenly just miss a lot. Lightning Storm now has a slow for 75% for 0.5 seconds. The way this could work is that you lightning something other than the one that you want to stun. So if there's a big team fight or something, or a lot of creeps on the lane, you can lightning the creeps, run up, and when the slow hits the enemy hero, then you can stun him. So it makes him a little bit better for solo mid in particular, but I still think Leshrac is a very good support hero. But it's an incentive to pick Lightning Storm. It has very low cooldown, and this could be big in team fights. Even though it's a 0.5 slow, it's still a very strong slow for that duration, so it can be annoying. Frost Armor can now be cast on buildings. What the fuck, guys? What? Lich and Aghanim Scepter Chain Frost no longer has a bounce limit, so you can catch it and it will keep bouncing until it's over. This is a smaller buff, even though it seems like whoa, it keeps going forever. It's a small buff. You will just delta split anyway, unless you have some amazing lockdown. But if you can keep your enemy still for that long, then you probably won the fight anyway. Frost Armor can now be cast on buildings. That's a huge buff. Imagine the combination between Lich and Treant Protector. Obviously, none of them are really good against the 5-man push train, but wow, they're gonna be really good for a long laning phase. I don't know, man. I don't know why Lich gets buffed. He's strong. He's picked every now and then in competitive. He's picked a lot in pub and has one of the highest pub win rates as well. So I don't see why they buff him. Makes no sense to me. Lina gets her attack range buffed again. Nice. This happens every now and then, like every second year or something. Um, yeah, I don't even know what to say about it. It's a nice attack range. It was already good. It's now a little bit better. She's basically sniper. Aghanim Scepter Laguna Blade damage goes through Magic Immunity. This is crazy good. It's a really good. Lina's Aghanim's was already very nice for the casting range, and now you have long cast range, high damage, and it goes through BKB. So she's a hard counter to a BKB anything really. BKB Slark, BKB SF. Like you can just sap them down, and that's scary to play against. This is a supporter's wet dream right here. Being able to scare the shit out of his core hero, even when he has BKB. Hex is rescaled a little bit, buffed. 12-second CD. It's still a pretty long time for a disable, but it's a very good disable when you have it. Lion will probably not see too much play even with this. Spirit Bear health regeneration increased. Very minor buff, but maybe not as minor if the laning phase keeps going for a long while. We'll see. Base agility reduced on Luna. Luna was a little bit too strong, I feel. Shapeshift no longer provides 100 to 200, 100, 200, 300 bonus health. But this wasn't really the strength of Lycan. So what IceFrog and Valve are doing here is that they're targeting one of the things on Lycan that was probably not what they want him to be. You know, always in changes, they try to keep the hero's strength is gonna be strong. You know, like their edge, what they're good at, they're gonna be amazing at. And Lycan is the Necrobook split push, like the Aura split push. He really hurts so much, and if you leave him unattended, he's still gonna take your base just as fast with this change. You know, it doesn't change anything. But for fighting, he's weaker now, so more easy to deal with him if you actually catch him. So he is gonna be the split pushing monster that we know, but just a little bit easier to kill when you actually catch him. Removed skewer maximum target limits. That's nice. You can now 5-man RP and skewer everyone instead of just 4 heroes. The range is rescaled to be better on level 1. Offlane Magnus, a little bit buffed, I would say. 750 instead of 600. Pretty good on level 1. Other than that, no massive change to Magnus. Split shot is reworked so that you have, instead of the damage scaling, it's the number of targets that scales. Always 80% damage on 2, 3, 4, or 5 targets. That's really good. You could get 2 points into it, or maybe 3 points into it, depending on how much you want to jungle or whatever. And it's gonna be enough. You don't need the 4th point until big team fights, really. So, yeah, I think this makes for faster farming. Mystic Snake no longer requires Fog of War to bounce. Yeah, but as we saw earlier, it also can't hit invis units, so it's not so much of a buff. I don't know. It used to be nice to be able to Mystic Snake bounty hunters or whatever when they ran away and get a kill. Mana shield mana shield damage absorption per mana increased from 1. Wow, that's a rescale. That's a big rescale. 1 to 1.6 on level 1. So really, they're fixing the way that you skill your Medusa. You know, that used to be a problem with her, that you wanted to skill everything, but she didn't get levels that fast. And if you went Midas, you delay your items, like your core damage items. This is really, really Medusa friendly. So already on level 2, you have almost the same effect as on level 3 in the old one, and level 1 is already really good, better than level 2 in the old one. So 1 value point in mana shield is much better now, almost twice as good, you know, or at least increased by 60%. Base movement speed on Meepo is improved. This makes support Meepo better in particular. Carry Meepo or mid Meepo is still gonna be sort of similar, but support Meepo, we're seeing it more and more from No-Tail, and yeah, he's sort of the only one, I guess, but I think it's really good. Also in pubs, I play against Weehaw every now and then. He will play support Meepo or carry Meepo, whatever. And yeah, support Meepo is interesting. I like the concept of it, so good change. Lower vision on Mirana's arrow. She's still pretty okay hero. Mirror image. Mirror image illusion damage dealt reduced from 45 on the end to 35 on the end and 20 on level 1. So, nerf to Naga, Riptide AoE lowered again. It used to be like 380 or something. They keep lowering it. Negative armor no longer applies to magic immune targets. So, overall, big nerf to Naga. That's good. She saw too much play. Here comes one of the more interesting changes in this patch. I'm sorry if it's just a lot of stuff that I'm talking about, but there's so much in this patch. Heartstopper aura of effect, aura area of effect increased from 1000 to 1200. So it's much harder if you're laning against him to walk out of it. If you're laning mid, it may not seem like a big change, 200 more AoE, but it actually might be that difference between being able to walk away from him or just staying in that aura all the time. Reaper's Scythe now adds a 30% duration to the respawn timer. Remember, this is without Aghanim's. You just add 30% duration to the respawn timer. That's a big change. This is this is most relevant to the late game. We're talking Necrophos is a pushing hero, but if pushing fails, or if you have a hard carry and a solo mid Necro, so the hard carry is farming up, say an Anti-Mage or whatever, some of the buffed heroes, Void, Anti-Mage, and then you have a mid Necro who's farming. Farming mid laners are pretty common in this version, as opposed to ganking ones like Queen. Then later on in the game, if you have Aghanims and this buff, this means that the enemy can't buy back, has a plus 30 duration, 30% duration to the respawn timer. And I don't know how this is gonna stack with buybacks, but I guess that it stacks because it doesn't say anything about it. So if you bought back and then get killed by Reaper's Scythe with Aghanims, you're screwed, man. Like, you're fucking dead for 3 seconds or something. 3 seconds, 3 minutes. It's gonna be insane. Already on a level 25 hero, you're looking at 99 seconds death time. So that's like what, 34 or 36, I guess, 36 seconds extra of death, and that's without buybacking. Yeah, you're gonna be dead for more than 2 minutes without having bought back. And if you bought back, you will be dead for close to 3 minutes or something like that. This is crazy good. Really, really good change. And as I say, this is a buff to late game Necrolite. Sorry for calling him Necrolite, but yeah. Phos means light, I think, in Greek. So it's still Necrolite. Night Stalker. Darkness now also has effect on the vision of buildings. So, a little bit more scary. I like that because they buffed the Day Stalker, keep it over light, and now they also buffed the Night Stalker. So, I like Night Stalker. But now they start buffing Bloodseeker, and Bloodseeker fills sort of the same role as Night Stalker, actually. In competitive especially. It is that ganking type of hero with a silence, with a thing that makes you not move or whatever, like Void from Night Stalker or Rupture from Bloodseeker. So I don't know which one you will go for. I still think Night Stalker is more reliable maybe, but Bloodseeker is a very strong hero now. Very, very strong. He's one of the big winners. But Necrophos as well. Next Assassin, Impale cooldown increased from 11 to 13 seconds, and Impale can no longer be blocked by Link and Sphere. Nice way to balance this change. Yeah, very nice way to fix it. Yeah, I think Nyx was a little bit too strong. His cooldown was very low on the stun. It's a good AoE stun. Ogre Magi cannot take any damage anymore. +1. Cast animation point is improved from 0.56 to 0.45. Meaning that you can cast your stuff through battery assault. That's the biggest change. So you can cast your stun even if you're being battery assaulted by Clock, for an example. But also you can surprise people from Fog of War with a quick kill, quick stun. Purification AoE increased from 225 to 240, very small increase in the AoE. Repel no longer removes positive buffs from the allies. You could remove Guardian Angel, for those of you who don't know that. And Guardian Angel increased the duration 1 second on every level. Also, it doesn't remove DD or haste and stuff like this, so it's not only for the Guardian Angel that's gonna affect. Aghanim Scepter, this is very interesting. Aghanim Scepter Guardian Angel increased from 5, 6, 7 to 8, 9, 10. So that's a very big increase in duration, you know. 10 seconds of Aghanims. Yeah, I think Omnium Knight is much better now. But Abaddon got a big buff as well, and they play a very similar part. Some people don't like when I say this because people really like the Repel and the Guardian Angel from Omnium Knight, but Abaddon is still the more reliable option. If the enemy has a lot of stuns, you can remove the stun with your shield, and that's something that Omnium Knight cannot provide. But yeah, this ulti is really good with Aghanims. Sorry. No sneezing. Phantom Assassin Stifling Dagger cooldown reduced from 8 to 6 seconds. Pretty significant, I would say, considering you can crit on your Stifling Dagger, so you can poke away at the enemy supports in particular and hope to get a crit with your Stifling Dagger. Blur evasion chance increased from 20 blah 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 to having 5 more on level 2, 10 more on level 3, and 10 more on level 4. 50% evasion, that's a big evasion already on PA. She might see some more play. I still consider her very unreliable of a hero, but this might be enough to make her, this change in particular, might be enough to make her a little bit more reliable. I don't like going late game with PA. Enemy gets an MKB, and if you don't get lucky and crits immediately when you jump in, you just, I don't know, man. I think there are many better super late game carries than PA. Phoenix Icarus Dive cast point now actually has a cast point. 0.01 was kind of ridiculous, so not as fast on escaping. And the health cost for using Fire Spirits is increased by 5%, and Fire Spirits damaging are lowered, especially on level 1. They're cut down pretty hard. They're down to 10 instead of 15. Later on, it goes up to almost the same. I mean, 70, 75 doesn't change too much, but yeah, 5 less damage per level. I still don't know if he's completely balanced with this, but I think it's a good... Yeah, this one, I need to play some games against this Phoenix to actually know if it's gonna balance it or not. The Cripify mana cost reduced. That's good, because I always felt it was really expensive to Cripify the enemy. 60, much better. Netherward duration is increased by 5. They're trying to make Pugna play it a little bit more, and look for that Refresher Orb Pugna, man, with double Netherwards. It's really interesting when you see it, but you can only go for it when you know that you can force the issue. Else the enemy will just wait you out and you wasted a huge cooldown Refresh Orb. It's interesting though. Can be strong against some teams. Queen of Pain. This is a hero that I feel so bad that Queen doesn't get to see any play at all now. I think she's an amazingly fun hero to watch, to play, because she always lives on the edge of, you know, and more interesting so than Puck. Puck has his phase shift. Some people might think that this is entertaining to watch, but I don't get as much hype seeing a Puck dive in because I know how elusive he is and he can always dive out again. Well, when a Queen commits to a kill, it's always about numbers of damage. How much can you bring down on her HP before she can blink out again, or can she kill you first? So I like seeing her buffed. The cooldown is reduced from 20 and 8 to 16 and 4. 4 seconds cooldown is like nothing, so you can keep the enemy very slowed if you're chasing one target, or you can actually target 2 people at once with this. And more importantly, you can throw it on several Blink heroes in a team fight. If you have chaotic team fights, you can throw it on several. It's still not a big buff though. It doesn't change a whole lot. I guess, yeah, I don't think it changes too much. The more interesting thing is almost level 1 and level 2, because you very often keep level 1, level 2 Shadow Strike. So 16 and 12 as opposed to 20 and 16. This is a little bit better for your mid-game adventures when you're chasing and killing. A lot of focus might be put on this 4 being such a low number, but that's a late pickup. You will still scream and blink first. And this, yeah, the 12 here looks very, very sexy as opposed to 16, so maybe a little bit higher chance to kill stuff. Shadow Strike cast range is also increased by 35. That's decent. A little bit better on laning phase on solo mid, and also a little bit better for chasing. It's still not that impressive though. It's still shorter than the enemy it's still shorter than the Astral Imprisonment, which already got nerfed itself. So it is a short range nuke. What else do we have? Razor's strength gain is increased by a lot. Like, he goes from 1.7 to 2.3, so he's gonna be tanky. Like late game he's gonna be a lot more tanky. Early on, like, you still need to get level 10 or 12 or something before you can really feel this change. Then you have the unstable current slow duration increased from 0.4, 0.5 to 1.6, 1 and 2. So 2 second slow duration is a pretty long time. I like it. Razor is a strong hero, but he's very situational, and he's gonna be a key part, by the way, in playing against Bristleback. Because if you have Razor, Bristleback just is so predictable. He wants to run in, he wants to chase you down, and he wants to just walk in the middle of the fight. And Razor is like, hey, thank you, man. You don't have any escape mechanism? That's great. Thank you. So that could be a very nice way to deal with Bristleback being so much stronger now, because he is a lot stronger. Ricky Backstab now works when attacking allied units. I seriously think that solo mid Ricky is a thing now. I seriously think so. Backstab working on attacking allied units, it's very, very good for denying. And he has good damage. Ricky is a strong hitter. So solo mid Ricky, definitely gonna try it out in pub, but in competitive, we might see some teams experiment with it. I wouldn't be too surprised. SD, one of the most interesting Aghanims upgrades in the game, I would say. Shadow Demon Aghanims, Demonic Purge cooldown replaced with 2 charges that have 40-second replenish time. So you can go into a fight and have 2 of them ready and just throw your ulti on 2 people. That's amazing. I really like it. Instead of making it stronger, because it's already a strong slow, it's a good damage combined with your second skill, the extra damage, 50%. I think easily you can get some nice play with this. You can shut down 2 heroes pretty much if you slow them down with this. So SD, Aghanims is still hard to farm. Solo mid SD is possible, but then you want to have 4 staff and mech maybe or something like that. Aghanims is expensive, so I'm not entirely sure how much we will see it, but later on in the game maybe can be good. Definitely good against the Omni Knight, by the way, because Omni Knight with his Aghanim's 10 seconds duration, now you can purge 2 enemies, remove the Repel and the Guardian Angel, whatever they have, and yeah, a lot of these buffs here, as you can see, they kind of act against each other, so there's a lot of thoughts put into this patch, I feel. Requiem of Soul secondary debuff now affects magic immune targets. Watch out, if you're gonna BKB and man up against the Shadow Fiend and kill him, but you have low HP remaining, you can still... Well, it's only a debuff, not the damage. Only the debuff. The debuff is that you deal less damage. I don't know if the debuff is the same as the main, but it's minus 50% damage, I believe. So, okay. I don't think the main ulti still debuffs. Yeah, okay, it's kind of crazy. SF slightly buffed, but very slight one, I think. Could have some big effect actually with the BKB active in team fights, but let's drop that one for now. Silencer. Agility growth increased from 2.1 to 3.0. What a big agility improvement. I don't think I've seen such a big agility buff to a hero in a long time, especially a non-agi hero like an int hero getting this much more. So increasing the carry potential of Silencer a little bit innately. This is gonna give you, you know, to translate it into numbers, every 7 levels you will have 1 more armor or so. And you will also have about 1% more attack speed, 0.9% more attack speed per level up, to give you some numbers on it. So it's decent. Curse of the Silent cooldown reduced to be 20, 20, 18, 16, 16, 12, 14, 8. So the last level is really important, 8. That's a really low cooldown because it has a duration as well. Curse of the Silent. So Curse build is better and carry build is better. This is kind of interesting. They're basically buffing Silencer overall. I thought we already saw a lot of silencer play with Vanscar picking it up a lot, and even EGM playing a beastly silencer at Star Ladder. So cool to see him get even more buffs. He does make for some pretty interesting games though, but I think his ulti is still too short cooldown. Skyref base movement speed increased by 10, so really annoying for whoever plays against him. 325, that's a fast hero. You know, the fastest hero in the game is 330, that's Luna. So 325, she's almost as fast as Luna, and he's a support. So he can be very happy even without boots quite long into a game. So buffing the 5th position Skywrath, possibly, and just a roaming Skywrath also, like going to mid lane, helping out and supporting your safe lane as well. Concussive Shot, speaking of roaming, is buffed a little bit in terms of damage, actually quite a lot on the last level. Yeah, even the progression is decent, 120 instead of 100. Level 1 is sort of the same though, just 10 stronger. Fixed Sniper's acquisition range, not matching his maximum range. Yeah, when you were max range you would not, if you attack walk, you would not proc your acquisition, like you would not start attacking something that was in your maximum attack range, because the base acquisition range on heroes is lower than that. I wonder if it's it's already fixed on Enchantress. She doesn't get up to that point. Lina will need it soon as well, with the rate that she's improving. Spirit Breaker, Nether Strike cast range increased to be 700 on all levels. I didn't actually know they'd scaled this much. Scepter cast range increased to be 850 on every single level. That's a big increase actually. Level 1 was very bad. 300 more cast range. So I'll bring back the Spirit Breaker. Nether Strike cooldown rebalance from 75 to 80, 70, 60. Yeah, so much better into later stages. 15-second lower cooldown. And early game, I don't think you suffer too much from 5-second extra cooldown. So it's good. Sven hitting like a boss. Jesus. Plus 6 damage, that's a lot. That really is a lot. Makes last hitting a lot easier for a safe lane carry Sven. Roaming Sven or support Sven doesn't really matter too much, I think, because they still rely on just spamming their spells and like supporting lanes and ganking. Later on in the game you have your ulti. It won't make a big difference whether you have plus 6 or not. But laning Sven is a lot better. Dual lane Sven maybe. Templar Assassin, Psionic Trap sub-ability now has the same cast point as the ability on the trap itself, which is 0. So you won't stop by using your sub-ability on Templar Assassin. So you can actually chase them, click D for your base hotkey, and it will activate the closest trap without your hero stopping. This is actually something that I complained directly to the development. I said like, this is so bad, and I complained to people, whoever I talked to, that this ability is just useless. If you use it, you're stupid, because you never want to stop anywhere with TA when you're chasing an enemy. So it made no sense. I never ever used this skill. Now I might use it, but it's still not a buff. It's more of a fix, you know. This is, some people say that this patch is a buff to TA, but as I mentioned previously in the fixes, there are 3 changes that will nerf her, and then this that will buff people who weren't good at targeting traps and activating them. I don't think, I will try and get used to it, but I don't think it will improve my TA play. We'll see. Terrorblade, strength gain reduced from 1.9 to 1.4. He's like the weakest ever now. I think he actually is. Reflection slow no longer persists through magic immunity, and reflection duration is rescaled, so on laning stage is not so OP anymore. This change might be enough to make him actually balanced for competitive, but I'm still reluctant to say that. His metamorphosis is crazy, his illusions are really good, and even though, you know, this is half a strength per level you remove here, so even though you remove, what is it, like 120 HP or something at level 10, it's still not that much. Like, it's not a big change. We'll see. We'll see. Overall, he's a lot weaker, though. You could say that. It's like this killing potential on level 1 was stupid that he had such a good one. Tide. Anchor smash damage reduction increased from 40 to 60%. It should be from 40% to 60%, I believe. It wasn't 40 flat, it was 40%. Never mind. 60%. Laning Tide against any melee hero is gonna be a win. You're gonna win that lane. And you can also now smash ancient creeps. So what they're saying is that, hey, use Tide Hunter offlane. Do it, try it. So if any support runs up to try and hit you, you run up to them and anchor smash them. They don't deal much damage anymore, especially if you have already been allowed to get level into Kraken, or if you have a stout shield. And then you can stack ancients and try to kill them by pulling them and anchor smashing, but you need level 7 before you can reasonably kill ancients, I think. It's not a huge, this one is not a huge buff, but this one is really, really relevant. And yeah, I think Tidehunter needs it. He has been lacking a lot. Sanking getting so buffed as well. Heat-seeking missile is no longer blocked by Ethereal. That's a good buff. That's a good buff. And especially another counter, direct counter here to the Daystalker, the Keeper of the Light. We talked about him earlier, so a little bit stronger against him. I've been talking for a long time. Jesus, this took longer than I expected. Tiny, craggy exterior. Stun duration rescaled from 1.2, 1.5 to 1 and 1.75. Yeah, a little bit better when you have maxed it out and not so OP on low level. It's a buff overall. This is a buff. Whirling Axes no longer have a casting point on Troll, so maybe we'll see a return of him going solo mid. Doesn't really change much to anything other. Team fighting is also a little bit better, I guess. Reworked Snowball into two-part ability, one which creates the snowball and a sub-ability to launch the snowball. You have 4 seconds to use the sub-ability. The area that automatically pulls allies has been reduced. You can now load an ally into your snowball within 400 range by clicking on them. It's really interesting. Snowball moves 75 ms faster for each allied hero inside it. Snowball deals 20, 30, 40, 50 extra damage for each additional hero inside of it. Now this is interesting. So they're rewarding stacking up for a snowball, but that's really okay, because if you stack up for a snowball and roll in as 5 or even as 3 or 4, your enemy has a huge chance to just AoE nuke you when you land. So this is a good thing. It's very fast though. I need to say this. It's very fast. For each hero that joins up, it's gonna be faster. So it can go up to a very high speed, I believe. Don't know what the base movement speed will be for it, but it can go really fast. So it might be hard to even combo them when they roll in. Undying, one of the big winners this patch. Soul Rip AoE increased, so much easier to heal a lot or nuke a lot with your Soul Rip. And it also has very low cooldown now since the recent patch. Undying also got buffed, lowering the cooldown on Soul Rip. Tombstone Zombie Deathlust match HP health threshold, wow that's long to say, increased from 5 to 20 on level 1, so much easier for zombies to get the rage going, and 35 as their new threshold instead of 20, so the crazy zombies is gonna be a real thing, man. Tombstone zombies no longer give any experience or gold, huge buff, down from 25 experience and 5 to 7 gold, and Tombstone bounty is increased, but not that much, 5 more on level 1 and 20 more on max level. Sure, it's some, you know, it's more, but with no experience coming from the way of the Tombstone at all, this guy is winning. And here is the biggest change, I would almost say. The Tombstone is overall really OP now. The biggest change, in my opinion, though, for competitive especially, is that Flesh Golem's Plague Aura now affects magic immune units. So even if you pop BKB, you still take extra damage from his ulti, and his ulti is scary. Like if he's close to you and you take more damage, yeah, it's really scary. Fury Swipe's no longer a unique attack modifier. Rest in pepperoni, pub players. That's all I can say. Competitively, still a big buff, I would say. You can go Desolator and deal crazy damage with him. you can go Diffusal Blade and actually purge enemy mana when you're attacking them, and have a chance to remove their ethereal form, or slow them down, or remove the Guardian Angel from Omni-Knife, whatever. So another really interesting change here. I think Diffusal Blade is gonna be a good thing, man. Jesus. But Desolator, you're gonna blow people up so fast. But then you still have the weakness that they can just ethereal form. So when Vengeful Spirit is slain, oh wow, this is one of the absolute biggest changes for competitive Dota right here in this patch. Vengeful Spirit. When Vengeful Spirit is slain, her killer is inflicted with a negative vengeance aura, which decreases the damage of her killer and their nearby allies until she revives. Until she revives? That's a long time. Jesus, that's a long time. So even if... I think this changes two things, mainly. So one scenario, you lose a fight really badly and the enemy comes to push. Then whoever got the last hit on you, which is very likely to be a core hero, because core heroes kill more, will have a negative damage aura on him. So, say, a Shadow Fiend kills you or something, he doesn't want to come up and hit the tower because he lowers the damage by the entire push by a lot. Wow, it's a big thing. The other scenario, which is almost even more important, because you don't want to lose fights in general, is that if you play Vengeful Support and you play it in a team and you want to coordinate team fights, the way that you go about it is you want to swap out the enemy core, kill him, and trade it for your support. Your Vengeful Spirit will probably die in the process of doing so. But now, if she swaps an enemy core and you kill the Vengeful as a trade-off, and you lost your core, you killed the Vengeful, but you're applied with a debuff, there's no way you're winning that 4-on-4 fight without your core hero and having the debuff. So Vengeful Spirit, she's a huge winner in this patch, and I actually think that this is too big of a buff. I think so. I don't know. People can, everyone to their own opinion, but I think this is too big of a buff in one version, really. To a hero that already saw some decent play? I don't know, man. But definitely one of the biggest winners in this patch. What else do we have? Grave Chill cooldown increased from 10 to 16, 14, 12, and 10. Nerfing the Visage a little bit and forcing you to level your Grave Chill, which you didn't really want to. You wanted to have level 1 in it. Really good change. Shadow Word duration increased, so you heal more with your Shadow Word. Could also damage more. Upheaval cooldown is also lowered. Upheaval is actually a better spell than some people give credit for. Making the Warlock a little bit stronger. I still think if you want to use Upheaval, you're mainly... I used to think, well, I'm split decision on this. I used to think that it was something that only support Warlocks really had the time to do, because if you're a core position Warlock, you had so much money to work with and so much items to work with, and your damage would be really good on right click, that you wanted to be active in the team fights. But to be honest, if you rush the Aghanim's Refresher and then just stand there and upheaval the enemy, that's really, really effective. The upheal is a good spell. So it's a buff to all Warlocks for sure. Wind Ranger, another big winner in this patch. Holy shit, she's a big winner. Activating Windrun now disjoints incoming attack projectiles. The way I see this, it doesn't do anything, because someone asked me, I specifically answered this now, if it disjoints spells, but it says specifically attack projectiles. So, yeah, it will only save her from that damage. It's a very good change though. Holy shit, it's good. And then you have the second buff, which is also interesting. Aghanim Scepter Focus Fire, damage reduction decreased from 50, 40, 30 to 30, 15, 0. So you actually have the same damage as normally, and you attack the fastest any hero, well, the fastest this hero can attack in the game. Of course, Alchemist has the fastest attack in the game with his base attack time being so low. Never mind that, that's another thing. But you attack with no damage reduction, and no longer has any special rules for procs. So getting proc item is really legit. Wow, that's interesting. So the carry Windrunner is doable now, but the late game power of an offlane Windrunner going into some sort of carry build is also possible. But most of all, I would say mid lane Windrunner is probably a winner of this. with the item build you can go. Now you can farm up a Windrunner and have some great effect with the Aghanim Scepter on her. You still need Hex, and you still, to sustain the mana cost of Aghanim's upgrade, you still need a Hex, I think. Witch Doctor, Maledict cooldown reduced from reduced from 35 to 20. Big decrease for sure, but I don't know how much this one in particular changes. But Death Ward base attack time improved from 0 to 0.25 to 0.22. Base attack time, does it even get affected by anything else? Doesn't it just have a set amount of attacks? I don't think it gets attacked, but maybe it gets buffed by Beastmaster Aura and shit like that. I don't know, man. Maybe it does. I never expected that it did. Kind of weird that they say that base attack time is improved anyway. There's also a recent fix to Witch Doctor, I believe, that attacks from Witch Doctor that I think it was fixed in this patch. I'm not entirely. Let's. Okay, that was another one. Yeah. So here, fix the bug where projectiles from Witch Doctor's Death Ward wouldn't deal damage or bounce after the Death Ward channeling was cancelled. So it's, you know, one of two changes this version for Witch Doctor. Where were we? We actually got a long way now. It's nice. So he gets several fixes. That's good. A little bit better. Hero Wraith King, mortal strike damage ratio increased from 125 to 1.5 and 275 to 3. So his crits are stronger and his base armor is reduced. So hits harder, more easy to kill. He hits really hard, is all I can say. And I think Wraith King is a very interesting hero right now. I think you can use him in competitive for sure. His lifesteal working on range heroes is a big change. And Zeus won. Actually, we got down to the last hero, and this is the last big winner of this patch. I want to say Arc Lightning cast point improved from 0.4 to 0.2, so only takes half the time to Arc Lightning. That's a big change in itself, because you will spend a lot of time just standing in Arc Lightning stuff when you play Zeus. Lightning Bolt True Sight range reduced to 750, so you're like, oh, I can't D-word anymore. Lightning Bolt Flying Vision range reduced from 1000 to 750, and you're like, oh, I can't see anything anymore. Lightning Bolt can now be cast on the ground, affecting the closest enemy hero in a 250 AoE. Cast on the ground, you can D-ward with this. That's amazing. So definitely one of the bigger winners, mostly due to this change and this change, obviously because the other two are nerfs. But yeah, mostly due to this change actually. Being able to cast Arc Lightning so fast is gonna be a lot easier to last hit with, and Lightning Bolt can be cast on the ground. It's really good for dewarding mid lanes, the mid lane high ground wards. So really cool. I guess I can read the item changes as well. Ground Courier respawns faster. It's good. No more cheesy strats that have huge impact. Bloodstone buffed a little bit. 100 more heal. It's cool. A lot of people already bought it, so gonna see more effect from it. The Super Mecha. Clarity buffed a little bit. Was probably necessary. It felt kind of bad, to be honest. Longer duration. I still think it heals the same rate, but over a longer duration. Okay, it doesn't exactly, but almost. Actually heals a little bit faster. But yeah. Eul Scepter deals damage when enemy units land. Wow, that's so good. If the enemy has a blink dagger and you use them, they cannot blink away. Get wrecked. So good item now, really. You can cast Cyclone on yourself while you are magic immune. This is another good thing. Especially for Invoker, this is a buff, because he's one of the most frequent Eul Scepter heroes. But overall, anyone who wants this item, it's good now. Meta style, mirror images now reset the current attack and spell targeting priority. So, also affects other image shuffles like Chaos Knight, Phantasm, and Naga Siren's mirror images. Yeah. This is just a change because it was too easy to see which one was real after someone manta styled, so it's a buff. Pretty good. Mjolnir also gets a nice fix. Damage reduced a little bit, but don't worry, that's gonna be made up for. Static shock area of effect is now centered around the unit with the static charge instead of the attacker. That's a nerf, I would say. But here comes the big one. Fixed chain lightning not functioning properly when it procs while a previous proc is still bouncing. Wow. That is a big buff. Fixed chain lightning not functioning properly. So the main lightning that comes when you attack will now work, you know, much better. Holy shit, I'm bad at wording stuff. But you could only have one at a time before, and now you can have two at a time, if even if the first one is still bouncing. So the damage being lowered doesn't matter at all. Necronomicon. Necronomicon warrior's movement speed is reduced or rescaled from 360. Yeah, it's reduced. 330 because level 1 you don't care anyway. 360 still don't care. 390. Okay, this is the one that you worried about. 350. 40 movement speed reduction, and here comes the big one. Experience change from 59 to 200. 100, 150, 200. You don't want to use level 1 and level 2 Necros anymore. Like, they're really... I don't know, man. Well, I guess the level 1s get buffed a little bit being faster, but even so, they're so easy to kill and they give a lot of experience now. So, buffing the split pushing a little bit by making it more rewarding to actually go and deal with the split pushing Necronomicons. Sharing wards should be done by a control key in the next version, so don't try and ward your ally. Wards can though no longer be placed in fountain areas, but even so, some people try and give them at the tier 3 towers or whatever. Be careful, hold control key, use a condom. Pipe of Insight, pipe health regeneration reduced from 11 to 8, but it now has an Insight aura which gives 4 HP regeneration, so you get 1 more for yourself and 4 more for your allies. And the active buff is no longer dispellable. Pretty cool. The cooldown is decreased once again on the Rod of Atos. 10-second cooldown. They're really trying to make this item a core item that every team should have one, is what I get from all the changes. Shife of Ice is nerfed actually. The base movement speed is not 100 anymore, but 140 when you hex someone. Only with Shife of Ice though, not for the other hexes in the game. Shadow Amulet, Fate Time no longer requires the target to remain stationary. So easier to use on allies because they will always walk a little bit when you throw it on them. But also you can use it on yourself, start walking away and then stop right as it's gonna fade you. So yeah, invisibility still requires the target to remain stationary. You could also disjoint stuff with this. So even if you keep walking, but you pop this on yourself, you can disjoint. Well, it's a very long time to be honest, but I guess there's some chance when you're chased by Tinker rockets or something, tower attacks, and you're on the other side of the map, you can disjoint them just by keep walking. Shadow Blade, Shadow Walk duration increased. I like it. Shadow Blade is actually a really interesting item. You can use it a lot in pub, of course, but even in competitive, I think it's pretty viable. And this last change, I bless you, Valve, because even if you are a pro player and you always hold the shift key and you're like, you practice every day and you play at your best, people still mess up this thing. And now they added an option that you require to issue a halt command in order to cancel a town portal score instead of a move command. So if you start TPing and you move, nothing's gonna happen. You can keep clicking, you know, but you have to press down a halt command. So I guess S or H, doesn't really matter which one, I guess, to actually stop your TP. This is so good. Should already have been done. And that's it, guys. So overall, this patch contained a lot of things. I hope you guys enjoyed me reading through them. Took me quite some time to work through it all. We're now 1 hour and 24 minutes exactly into it. If you have any questions to me about what I think about something that I missed in the fixes or whatever, tweet at me on WagaGaming, or you could come to my stream at Wagamama TV on Twitch and just ask me directly, but there's higher chance that I will respond to a tweet. But that's it, and I think it's a great patch with some nice and rich content. Some of it might be really interesting for pub to see how it works out, like the Ursa being buffed, but for competitive I think it's a great fix, and this is a fix that they needed to make for TI4. So TI4 should be more interesting with this. Now all I want is more heroes that could get balanced and get added to Captain's Mode as well. That's it, guys. Take care. I will make more videos in the future, so you can check them here at my YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.